Hey there, this video is part of a full online course right here on YouTube called Tofu Mastery. So I highly recommend starting from the very first lesson, which you can find here. Otherwise, let's get to it. In this video, we're going to discuss the different types of tofu. In a way, this is the most important lesson in the course because I don't know what type of tofu you have access to, which one they sell at your local store. So knowing what type of tofu it actually is really gonna help you adjust the recipes that I'm giving you, and it's gonna help you understand what techniques are gonna work best, what techniques are really just adding time and the result won't be that different. So we're gonna get into it. There's a lot to talk about. We have people joining us from all different parts of the world, and the names that different types of tofu can have will vary from place to place. So I'm gonna tell you sort of the general guideline and which types are softer and which types are firmer. But what I really wanna do after I do that initial step is show you so that you can see what the texture is like and compare it to the tofu that you can find wherever you live. So the scale of tofu firmness in many parts of the world goes like this. On the very lower level, we're going to have the softest kind, and on the very high level, we're going to have the firmest kind. So in that sort of base level, we have what is usually called silken tofu. And silken tofu, whether soft or firm, is the softest kind of tofu that you can find. And that is only used for creaming it up. It is a great egg replacer for baked goods. You can use it to create puddings, and mostly it is used in desserts because it's not really sliceable and it wouldn't hold its shape if you're sauteing it in a pan or adding it to a stir fry. Then we have what is considered soft tofu, which is a little bit firmer than silken, but it is still incredibly soft. And I pile it together with the silken tofu and just use it as a way to add creaminess to recipes where you need a tofu cream to be added. After silken and soft, we have what is usually known as regular tofu. And regular tofu is still pretty soft. So somewhere between the soft tofu and the regular tofu is what you would find, for example, as the tofu in a miso soup, where it is still kind of very gelatinous and very soft, but it is a little bit more sliceable than the soft variety. Then we have firm tofu. Firm tofu is what you will find in most supermarkets. It is usually labeled as firm, and this is one in which we're gonna spend a lot of time because firm tofu is a place where we really want to press as much liquid. This type of tofu is spongy and it is sliceable. So here we're entering a different category, and I'll get into that in a second. After the firm tofu, we have the extra firm, and then at the really top of the scale, the super firm. These two types of tofu really have kind of a much lower water content than the rest, and it makes them much firmer. The texture is a little bit more rubbery, but also really meaty, extremely satisfying, and really easy to slice or to use in so many different recipes. What I want to do now is give you my way of separating the types of tofu in a way that is much simpler, so wherever you live in the world, no matter what the tofu is called, you can recognize it. First group is what I call the silken group. So silken tofu usually comes in either these little shelf-stable packages that you can keep in the cupboard, or they come in a tub filled with water. This type of tofu is extremely soft and can only be used for creaming it up in a blender or food processor, to use as an egg replacer for baked goods, to use as part of a pudding, for example, as part of a custard. You can also use it for salad dressings, sauces, and things like that. Never for stir frying, never for slicing. This is its own basic group. I'm gonna show you what these look like. Silken tofu will come with the label of either being soft or firm, but even the firm kind, which is the one I'm opening up for you right now, is extremely soft. Same goes for tofu labeled just as soft tofu and not silken tofu. It all falls within this category. It's very gelatinous. It reminds me a little bit of Jell-O in a way. So even this, that is the firm kind, you'll see that just by putting a little bit of pressure, it's going to completely tear and break apart. This is the kind that you always want to blend up. My second group of tofu is the pressing kind. So the pressing kind includes the type of tofu that could be called firm tofu, and it usually comes in a little tub with some water. And this is a kind of tofu that has a lot more firmness when compared to the silken group. And it can be sliced, it can be cut up, but this is very, it's the perfect type of tofu that really benefits from pressing because it still has a lot of water content. You're gonna feel it. Even if I press lightly, you're gonna see that a lot of liquid leaches out, and this means that this is within the pressing group and benefits from pressing. It benefits from longer marinades because you will have a lot of space for that marinade to seep in. Now you can use it without pressing, of course. You can use it by crumbling it up and using it in things like a tofu scramble or a no-egg salad, for example. But this kind, pressed, oh my goodness, it's spongier than the next group I'm gonna show you, but it does have great texture and it absorbs a ton of flavor. My third group is the no pressing group, and it includes the firmest varieties of tofu. So this would be something like a super firm and extra firm, in which most of the water has already been taken out. It usually comes in these vacuumed packages, and you'll see that the tofu is the firmest of all of them. It is very easy to slice. If you squeeze it, not a lot of water comes out. And this type of tofu is perfect for stir frying, for sauteing, for any kind of preparation you want to use this in. And this is the type of tofu that breaks the rule that you may have heard time and time again, that tofu always needs to be pressed. This baby doesn't benefit a lot from pressing. It's just gonna add extra time to your preparation. And whenever I can save you time, I'm going to do that. So you'll have a bit of liquid released, sure, but the result in the texture is going to be very similar to what already comes out of the package. This is a texture that is very satisfying. It is very meaty, a little bit more rubbery and less spongy than the previous group. It benefits from marinating, but the marinade will stay mostly on the surface of the tofu. So when using this type of tofu, the final glazing or the addition of a sauce really, really helps. Now, it doesn't mean that if you want to use a really great marinade, you cannot use this kind and you only have to use the pressing kind. It just means that, you'll know how to treat your tofu depending on the type of tofu that it is. This is my favorite in terms of texture. So you're gonna see me using this type of tofu even when I'm marinating and in most of our recipes. But now that you're familiar with the three groups, you'll be able to choose what you do with each one and whether you need to press or not press. Next, we have two bonus groups when it comes to tofu, and it has to do with tofus that already come with some kind of flavor. The first bonus group is the smoked tofu group. Smoked tofu has been smoked, and so much flavor, so much of that smokiness has been added to the block of tofu. You would cook it as you would with any other block of tofu, but it already has some of that smokiness within it. It also, the process of smoking also kind of adds a bit more firmness to it, I find, depending on the brand you get, and it is super delicious. The second bonus group are the flavored kinds of tofu that you can find nowadays, and this will depend on where you live. Where we live, we have sun-dried tomato tofu, which is the kind I have here. We have curried mango tofu and olive tofu and herb tofu. There are so many different kinds, and these basically already have a ton of flavor added to them. Now you have to try them out and see if you like them. I prefer to add my flavors myself, so I usually buy either the smoked kind or the regular kind of tofu, but these are helpful. Sometimes you're in a hurry, you just want to chop this up and add it to a salad, for example. You can also quickly saute these in a pan if you want to serve them hot. They can also be paired with sauces and do the final glaze technique that you'll see in many of our videos. When you understand what type of tofu you have access to or what type of tofu you enjoy the most, you will be in the driver's seat. You will be able to decide whether pressing or not pressing is a good idea, whether you're going to rely on a shorter marinating time, or a very prolonged marinating time because it's gonna soak all of that up. And you'll be able to decide what works best and especially what you like the most, because there really isn't one main rule of which tofu is the best. It's all gonna depend on your taste preferences, on your texture preferences. In all of our recipe videos, you're gonna see that I left this open so that you can adjust. Knowing all you know now, you can decide whether pressing is a good idea or not, and you can use the type of tofu that you love. Thanks for watching. In the next video of Tofu Mastery, I will be teaching you about pressing tofu, how to use a tofu press, which one I recommend, and how to do it DIY style with things you already have in your kitchen. I'll see you in our next video for the course, and if you're just joining us, we highly recommend starting from the very first video, which you can find here. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit that little bell so you don't miss a thing, and of course, make sure to follow us on social media. All of our handles are in the description box.